Well, just so you guys know, quick introduction. My name's Chris. I'm a ministry consultant here in Seattle, Washington. Funny enough, sunny Seattle, Washington, believe it or not, have a beautiful sunshiny day. So been here for about 2 years, worked at a few different churches before working here. So I know church management to me is a part that's very, very, very important and excited to walk through. And then we've got Stephen with a PH. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself there?
Yeah, I like to tell folks it's Stephen like in the Bible, spelled like it is in the Bible, said like it is in the Bible. You know what I mean? So I'm Stephen. I'm a group product manager here at Subsplash. I've been with Subsplash for over 10 years now. And I started off in support, helping our clients use the platform, ended up director of support, and then made the transition to product a few years ago. And I'm a group product manager. And I'm excited to dive into the Fluoro product and church management with you guys today.
Love that. I was going to say, Stephen, I know the burning question, the question everyone's wanting to know, is the hair still under the hat, or did you actually trim it back? Is this a pre-COVID?
It is. Yeah. It's that is a great question. The hair is shorter than it used to be. It is not quite that long, although I think it's a little unkept under the hat at the moment. So I won't disturb you guys by showing you what it looks like.
I love it. Thanks so much, Stephen. Excited they're able to be here. And I know we're going to walk through quite a few different things today. So the agenda for you guys to know is volunteer service planning together right off the bat, then child check-in, mail outs. And then Stephen, I know, is going to talk a lot about platform vision, where we're hoping to go with Subsplash 1 and with Fluoro. And of course, there's going to be a good chunk and a good time of Q&A. So please make sure as we go through this to go ahead and post your questions in the Q&A section, as well as please make sure to actually upvote the questions that you feel like are relevant to your church. That actually helps us prioritize what we can get to, because we only have a limited time here today, and we're going to try and get to as much as we can. We also have our platform expert, Matt, who's going to help answer some of these questions too. I was going to say, can we just give a little bit of love to our platform support and our platform expert team in the chat? Come on, let's see it. Let's see it roll in. Matt, thank you so much for being here. Applause, love it. You guys are awesome and help make ministries flourish and thrive with what we do. So really the theme for today, and as we kind of walk through with the drop and even alluded to a little bit when we talk through church engagement, is really this big focus on tools shape your ministry. Your tools shape your ministry. And so technology really should actually help focus the church on the mission, and really that's to know your people better, right? It's to help disciple people better. And so the question I want you guys to be thinking through today as we walk through some of the more practical things is actually, how are your tools shaping your ministry currently? And what are some ways you feel like it could better shape your ministry? And are your tools helping you know your people better? Are they helping you make ministry more efficient and more effective? I think Dr. Derwin Gray, he just laid it out so wonderfully at the drop. He said, don't see digital as a hindrance to community, but as an enhancement to community. So again, are your tools hindering actually being able to better engage and disciple your community, or are they enhancing it? I think the reality is that we've seen for the church is that it may not always be the case, right? And 63% of Christians actually asking their church to provide more resources online to help them grow, to help them be discipled spiritually. And then you have this crazy paradox of 33% of pastors actually are struggling to meet that need. And so you have almost 2/3 of the congregation saying they want more, but then 1/3 of pastors just saying that really they can't, they're struggling to meet that need. And so unfortunately, what this has actually led to, really, we believe this is a really big cause of this. And probably, I think, one of the most saddening stats that I've seen in a long time. And that's 38% of pastors have actually seriously considered quitting full-time ministry. That's actually up from almost 30% from last year. And so that actually means that, judging by the stat, there's probably almost half of you guys in this webinar that have considered quitting full-time ministry. And that's not what we want. And I know I can't imagine if my pastor decided to quit. and the impact that all the pastors that I've had on my life decided to quit. I'm sure most of the congregation that you guys are pastoring and leading and shepherding probably feel exactly the same way. So really, we kind of firmly believe that there's this trend that we've seen that's contributed heavily to this. And so we're going to walk through this first slide and then a second slide just to see this paradox here. The first being pre-COVID, so 2019, pastors' lowest priority was keeping up with latest digital and technological trends. And also, I just have to say, I got to call it out. I see the love in the chat. I love that. Like, that's what Subsplash is about. That's who we are. So super cool. So with that, 2019, lowest priority is keeping up with digital technological trends. And then contrast that with 2022, post-COVID. We're kind of in the coming out of the COVID phase. A lot of states are slowly easing some of those restrictions. And the number 2 priority now for pastors in 2022 is keeping up with technology, only second to declining attendance. And so I was going to say, how many of you guys, go ahead and type it in the chat, can actually resonate with this? Really, you feel like you're struggling to keep up with church technology, whether it be websites or engaging people or mobile apps or even church management. Go ahead and type that in the chat there below. And as we do that, we've got a poll, and I think this is going to be super fascinating for us to walk through. It's really just going to set the trajectory of the rest of our time and really help set the vision for where we want to go. So the poll that we're going to have here, and it's going to pop up here on the screen in a second, but want to outline that. I would say, as you think through how many software tools you're currently using to engage and manage the church, think through, do you have a separate tool for service planning, child check-in, website, live streaming, media hosting, podcasting, online giving, so many. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll, and you guys should see that pop up here in a second. Let's see, answers coming in. I love it. I love this participation too. You guys are on it, man. This is awesome. 60% of you guys answered. Let's see, can we get it to 70? Come on. Yeah. Oh, you guys are blowing past this. Let's go. 80%. Do I see 80%? We're getting there. Yep. Okay. We'll close it at that. So here's what I'm going to share with you guys, and you should be able to see the results here on the screen. The majority of you say by 1% say 4 to 9, and the other 48% say 1 to 3. My guess is probably the people that are in the 1 to 3 are probably on Subsplash. Am I right? Like, let's be real. So love that though. And again, as we think through that, how many tools you guys are actually using? Again, how are your tools shaping your ministry? So with that being said, I know we're going to get into some of these really cool practicals, as Subsplash One now includes part of this Fluro church management platform, and our heart really being to have one place to know, to manage, to engage, to mobilize your people. And so again, for you guys that came in a little bit late, we've got volunteers and service planning up first, then child check-in, mail-outs, and then we're going to walk through vision. And again, Q&A down below. Please add those questions and upvote them as they come out so we can make sure to get those answered. But Stephen, I'm so excited. Right off the bat, yeah. Volunteers and service planning. This is one of the things that's very near and dear to my heart, is having a background in worship and in production. And so I know a lot of churches have 2 different softwares or solutions to try and both schedule their volunteers, manage their volunteers, as well as plan services, and to mobilize their volunteers to have the resources they need. So we've got pretty incredible volunteer management, service planning, as well as song select integration. So I know a lot of you worship leaders, maybe creative guys, production guys are wondering about that. You can add chord charts and things like that. So without further ado, Stephen, let's go ahead and get into this first part of the demo.
All right, sharing my screen. Did that successfully take over from you, Chris? You guys seeing what I'm displaying here? Perfect. All right, so here I am in the Fluro dashboard, and I am in events, and I'm going to look at my event types here and look at services, and I'm going to go to the planner view. So I've got this upcoming service that I want to make a plan for. So actually, I'm going to collapse the rest of these roster views here to try to make this a simple thing to look at for you guys. So let's just look at the plans. So I'm going to add a plan, and I can select from past plans that we've made. So I'm going to take this one here. All right, and then from this planning view, I can add new rows. I can add songs specifically. I can add a new section. I can duplicate a row if I want to, and I can drag and drop these, to put them in a different order, let's say. And then the time stays consistent. We've got a time bracket on this. So let's save this plan for this upcoming service. And then, of course, we're going to need some volunteers. A band is obviously very important. We got to have worship at this service. So we're going to add a band, and these roster types. So I could add a new roster type here if I want to. These roster types, I can add specific roles for them, and then even criteria for those roles, like capabilities for different individuals. So if I'm going to add the band, we need one for worship lead, drums, keys, and guitarist. So let's look for a guitarist. And so you'll see actually the system is suggesting some folks that have done this before, or that have the capability of playing guitar, right? That's always good. So let's add Jonathan. So we've added him, but we want to make sure that he's notified because we want to find out if he can do this or not. So I'm going to go ahead and send this to him. And it looks like he is set up to be automatically confirmed. And if I was inviting somebody that needed to confirm before they could, join, then I could nudge them. I could nudge everyone that's unconfirmed, like, hey guys, I need to know if you're going to show up. And of course, there's more than just the band. There's lots of different roster types that you can create. Really, the possibilities are endless. I don't know about you, but I used to go to a church that we didn't actually have a building, and we had to set up and tear down in a gymnasium in an elementary school every single week. And so we needed lots of folks to help with that. So maybe you've got a setup and teardown crew that you've got to add to the roster as well. This is a super fast flyover. There's way more to the system than this, but this gives you a solid idea of what service planning and volunteer management looks like in a Fluro system.
Love that. Thank you so much, Stephen, for sharing that. I feel like I have to ask the obvious question. Can you guys see my screen now? Hopefully you can. I love it. Go ahead again, drop questions down below. And again, please make sure to upload those so we can make sure to get them answered. Next up, my favorite part of Fluro, child check-in. I absolutely love Fluro's child check-in. I think, as we were talking through child check-in, there's really two key things that it has to have. And number one is simplicity. I'm sure all of the parents out there who can probably resonate with waiting in line for 15, 20 minutes to try and check in their kids to service. That's what happens when it's not simple, right? When you can't easily check your children in, that sort of thing happens. I would say the second thing, probably most important, is security. It's got to be secure. And so I know, Steve, you're going to go over a little bit of that as well, but having the ability to do printed tags for security, as well as even for churches that are maybe wanting to go a little bit more digital, doing PIN code options and things like that. So without further ado, again, Stephen, let's go ahead and get into this.
All right, you see in my screen? I don't know how many times I've said that in the last couple of years. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. Okay, so for check-in, we're going to go down here to the config section, and we're going to look at our check-in stations. Now, if you're using Fluro with Subsplash, this default check-in station is going to be created for you right away. Then you can go in here and you can edit the settings for that, so you can customize your domain name. And this URL here, so we got to give it a title. And then this URL is going to be what your volunteers or your church staff is going to be using to check people in, on a tablet or on a laptop, so that folks can look themselves up. And we can add a registration form to it. So we've already got a new child check-in form set up for this. And then we can change settings. We can decide, okay, we do want to do name tag printing, and we want to make sure that parents have to use a PIN number to check out their kid. And then we're restricting the group selection too, because we're not just checking in any group, right? So it's gonna just show folks that are in these school age groups right here. So let's take a look at what it looks like for the person that's checking in. So let's say I want to check in my buddy Chris, and you can see his household here actually is sectioned off. And if I click on Chris, I will see that he is indeed in preschool. Oh, actually, it looks like you're not just in preschool, you're in lots of school. And I can create a pin code right here, right? And if I have to enter this now and remember it, obviously, I don't recommend the code 1234, but let's go ahead and do that for simplicity's sake. All right, so Chris is checked in. And if I was to search for him again here in this view, I would see, okay, he's checked in. Let's say I want to check him out. Well, let's check him out. And let's enter the wrong code here, 1235. Sorry, that's the incorrect pin. All right. And Chris has successfully checked out. Chris, I hope you had a great time in kids ministry today.
I did. I had a great time in preschool ministry and high school ministry. So thanks so much, Stephen, for walking us through that. Let me go ahead and re-share my screen here. So I love chat is super interactive. Let's keep that going. I would say if you guys have questions, please pop them if you can in the Q&A, because what that helps us do is actually be able to filter through those as the so they don't get lost in the chat. And again, please upload the questions you feel like are relevant to your ministry, so that we can absolutely make sure we spend a good amount of time answering those. Okay, up next and last but certainly not least, I was gonna say, Stephen, I know I keep telling you this, but this is my favorite part, and this might actually be, there's just so much, it's all so exciting, but communication is so key. It's so important. I know a lot of churches realized when COVID first hit how important communication actually is, right? Trying to communicate that services will be canceled, or having to wear masks, or different capacity restrictions, all those different things that happen that you had to easily and effectively communicate. And so that's kind of why we've had this mail out system. And so what this allows you guys to do is actually do mail outs with complete integration within the Flero system with ease of use. So you're not having to pull down a CSV from your church management and then upload that every week to another software solution, and having to constantly do that to make sure that everyone is properly communicated with. So Stephen, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so we're looking at mail outs. I see the green around my screen, so I'm just going to trust that you can see it. You tell me otherwise. That's the better way to approach this, right? All right, so over here in the mail out section, I'm going to check out the weekly church newsletter here and go to the basic details. So obviously you've got to have a title and a subject, super basic details there. But what I'm actually most excited about here are the newsletter email fields. So I could pull in an image here for the top image, any image that I have in my library here in the Flero system. I could pull in a video if I wanted to. I got my introductory text here that is, conditionally pulling in the name of the recipient. So it's going to be personalized. And then I've got these blocks that I can move up and down if I want to switch their position. They've got a heading, a subtitle, a body if we want, an image, and I can add a button. So this is like linking to the live stream for folks that can't make it in person. I've got a registration form here for a small group that we've added, a link to give, and registering for an upcoming event. And then if I want to preview that, I can go look over here and see that we've got some nice blocks that are set up here with the image, with the text. It's personalized to me, since I would be the recipient. Here's the live stream block that I mentioned. Here's the small group registration block, the give link, and then the upcoming event. And this is just a sample, right, of what you can do. There's lots of different possibilities. And then over here, if I want to cultivate my recipients, I don't have to send it to everybody that I've got. I could look for a specific group or team, right? If I want to find a particular group, I can. We've got lots of groups here. or I could look at folks that have filled out particular forms, right? If I want to, you can get really specific. And not only that, I can build a custom query for those who are power users and they want to be very specific. Maybe you've got a larger congregation. I could make some combination of these things, right? And I could do a custom search, and it would, address it to those particular people. And then another thing I want to look at here is what it looks like if it's already been sent. So I'm looking at the results here from a newsletter we already sent. We can look at the clicked and opened rate. We can see some helpful stats here. And we can also send the email again to certain folks if they're like, hey, I didn't get it or I didn't see that. So very helpful functionality here. So you're going to have to pick a favorite though, Chris, because so that reminds me of my daughter, right? She's always like, the next thing she sees is her favorite thing. Right now Encanto is her favorite thing ever. And she's just won't stop singing it. So you're gonna have to tell me what your favorite Fluoro feature actually is.
I love it. I love it. I love it, Steven. I was going to say, I think the next question in the platform vision might honestly truly be my favorite, and we're hoping to take this. But again, just want to reiterate, questions, please post them down below. We're going to spend a good amount of time. Luckily, we've got a good amount of time left to spend on questions. So next up, I think this is what's super, super exciting is before and really pre-Fluoro, Subsplash had all these different incredible engagement tools, right? So apps and giving, websites, media, the people, groups, messaging, live streaming, TV apps, so many different things. And now what Fluoro allows us to do is kind of bring in some of those other tools that we didn't have before, like child check-in and volunteer management. And really, Steven, I want to ask this next question. I think a lot of people really want to know the answer to this is what's the vision for Fluoro and Subsplash One? Where do we hope to bring it and take it in 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, I'd say, if I was to boil it down to two words, it would be engagement and unity within the platform. We're not just like Fluoro is a church management tool, and that's something that the folks on staff at your church are going to love using, but we want to connect that with the parts of the platform that people are engaging with. We want to make it easier for you to disciple your congregation, and that's not just about being organized and being efficient. That is about actually connecting with people. And the way that we are going to accomplish that is by really integrating the platform so it's a single platform. So what we're really concerned with here is not just giving you tons of different tools that you can use that all operate in a silo. We want them all talking to each other. When you reference a person, we want that to be the same person, right? Not separate if you go over here and look at them, but it's referencing the same data, right? That's what we're moving toward right now, very hard. And that is what the current vision is all about. And I don't know, I think our CTO is on the call. Stephen, if you want to talk about this, feel free. If not, sorry to put you on the spot, but did you want to address anything else about the product vision that I didn't cover?
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job, Stephen, talking about this. And that's why Stephen, when he says Stephen with a PH, it's because we're on the same team and we're in a lot of meetings together. So sometimes I just use our last names, but he's with a PH and I'm with a V, until now we've got a bunch of Stevens everywhere. So it's real confusing, but yeah, no, absolutely. One of the things I even say internally on the product team when we're talking about the product and what does it look like, and even when we're talking about how does it compare to other things out there, but really want to have a focus where the product is the platform, and then we want to take a very holistic approach to how we look at the product and what we're doing. And because even if we have like all these tools, but they're not talking with each other, it's really only saving you time maybe in billing for having these different products and not having them all actually tied together. So that really is one of our big focuses right now. And you can see, I know there's a lot of questions around Fluoro and how it's connected. And the goal is that right now there actually is overlap and there is some disconnection, but we're slowly bringing these together so that people are seamless across the platform, like Stephen was talking about. So groups are seamless across the platform, that events are seamless across the platform. And really by the end of it, you're not going to have these two separate platforms. We're really working to have it all be tightly integrated together. And like, you know, if you were in the webinar yesterday, I even gave some examples of how the power of the platform really starts to take place when these things connect together, where you have, you know, our live media streaming tied with our messaging tool and tied with our giving prompts, creates like this, able to create like this whole live experience that you can now do giving prompts in the live stream. You can be participating in that messaging stream. And, you know, when people are communicating, like jumping into that live chat, or they're registering for an event, or they're filling out forms, profiles are being generated. Those profiles are tied to users, which are the same users throughout the entire platform. Anyways, I could go on and on about it because I get really pumped about this part of it and it's really exciting. But just maybe the one big takeaway of knowing is like, we really want to come alongside churches and answer that problem of we're overwhelmed with technology and we have a hard time keeping a pulse on our people. And that's the main two things we're really trying to solve with this all-in-one solution is how can, through engagement on our platform, can we give you better data and better insights into not only who your people are, but what they're doing on the platform, and then how well that all works together is something that we're really, really passionate and really excited about. So I don't know, that was maybe more than people were asking for, but like I said, I can get on that soapbox and stand there all day, and that's also the pastor in me. I go long, so gotta.
I love it. I love it. Thanks, Stephen. I was going to say also, everybody probably wants to know, can you actually play the guitar behind you, or is it just a decoration there?
Yeah, it's really just to make me look cool.
Wow, way to put him on the spot.
I love it.
No, I can. It's strictly Dave Matthews pretty much most of the time, but I can.
So good.
I can do all right.
So good. Thanks for sharing that, Stephen. Now, another question that I have too for Stephen with a PH is, you and I briefly talked about, and Stephen with a V, Stephen Testone, I know, has mentioned source of truth and that language. Now, what's the difference between pulling from a single source of truth and having just integration with two systems? Because there's quite a few softwares out there that have integration, but I know we've talked about a single source of truth. So Stephen with a PH, could you elaborate on what that actually means?
Yeah, sure. You know, with an integration, it's often about keeping two different data sets in sync. And when you do that, there's always caveats, there's always limitations, there's always opportunities for them to get out of sync. And when you are, you know, and then it's hard to leverage that to then build out the rest of the platform. You know, it's just an integration between those two things, not everything else. But if everything is referencing the same source of truth, if it's pointing back to the same data, then it's not, you know, it's more than the sum of its parts, right? It becomes this force multiplier, so to speak. And the possibilities are endless. And that way, you know, when your end user is looking at their own data, and when your admin is looking at a person, whether it's in Fluoro or whether it's in the Subsplash dashboard, that they're looking at the same person with the same data in the same household. That's what we're driving toward, right? Not disparate systems with some not so great integrations that are hard to keep up with, and things that you've got to, you know, caveats you've got to know about, but like a real solid system that's just all referencing the same data source.
Love that. Thanks so much for sharing that. Stephen Testone, anything to add to that as well?
I don't know if I have anything to add to it. Really, just to emphasize, yeah, what we're not shooting for is like syncing and integration, because you do come up with syncing issues when you're dealing. I don't know if anybody out there is like a technical person and you've had to do syncing with anything, like it's prone to error. And so what we're doing is actually having a shared system of record, a shared central source of truth, so that these platforms aren't syncing with each other, but they actually are all using the same data and the same things. And there's going to be a lot of advantages to that.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And all this vision, everything that we're doing, where we're trying to go, is really focusing on this, right? And that's how do we help connect people with the truth, the joy, the hope only found in Jesus. And we know that what we're doing is pointless, right? If it's not actually connecting people with Jesus and helping you guys better disciples. So we've got a quote here from Katrina, who is a church admin, which can we in the chat, please give some love to the church admins. They're the glue that holds the church together. So go ahead and type in chat, even maybe the name of your church admin, and just give them some love. Let's see it. Yes. Thank you, admins, for all you guys do. For any admins that are on here, thank you. Like, we mean that. We absolutely know the hard work that you guys do. So Katrina said that she absolutely loves that Subsplash provides an all-in-one solution to share the gospel, to connect people, and to make disciples. So with that, after hearing the vision, before we jump into some Q&A, we have another poll for you guys, which we're going to launch. So after seeing a couple of these different things, and again, there's so much that we even couldn't compact into just an hour's worth of time, how many solutions, how many different softwares do you think that Subsplash could replace with the addition of the Fluoro side? Not sure. 3.
Man, whoa. I love seeing these stats come in real time.
Crazy. My goodness gracious.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. Okay, keep it going. We got to keep it going. Let's say we got to 82% on last week. We're at 61%. So I feel like we could get a little more participation from you guys. Can we get it to 70? We're at 64, 60. Come on. I know there's 1 or 2 of you guys that are just, they're not paying attention, not engaged.
On the plus side, it's because people are so actively thanking their admins right now. So that's
they should be. They should always be thanking their admins, Stephen. Perfect. We got close. We're at 73%. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, and we will share the results. So you guys should be able to see that. But that's kind of shocking. I mean, most people said 3, like 3 different systems that it can actually replace. A lot of people said 2. Some people said 4. 24 people said 4, 5 plus. Not sure. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of different systems that you guys can consolidate into one now. So super excited with a lot of this exciting news. I'm sure you guys have already seen post drop as well as on the website. We are doing a sale, $750 off on the platform through the end of March to help get you guys live for Easter. We always want to be a blessing to the church and never want to be a barrier. So we always want to help enable that, especially at a time like this when it's so important to connect people towards Jesus, right? It's a season of celebration. So want to make sure that you guys take advantage of that. If you're already a Subsplash client and want to know more, even specifics regarding your ministry, go ahead and book a call with your client success manager. If you're new to Subsplash and you're actually wanting to find out a little bit more or to do just a more deep dive product demo with even someone like myself, go ahead and go to the link that you'll see on the screen. I know they'll send this out as well, and they might post that in the chat too. So go ahead and do that. So now I'm sure the moment a lot of you guys have been waiting for, Q&A. So we can go ahead and get into this. We've got maybe about 20 minutes before we need to wrap things up. So let's go ahead and start. We're gonna go from the most upvoted down to the least. And you guys should see, I know one of our expert support people, Matt, has been diligently answering questions in the chat. So if your question's not answered, make sure to check the answered section as well. And then we can go ahead and walk through this. So first question, I'm actually gonna pass this over to Stephen Testone. And I think I clicked the answer live button. So let's see if this works. But the question, Stephen, is from I think is it Francois or Francis? I'm going to say it's Francois because that sounds really cool. Pastor wants to switch from Breeze to Subsplash, saying Breeze talk to somebody same day, Subsplash have to make an appointment, but reluctant to switch because they feel that there's a little bit of user friendliness that Breeze has that maybe Subsplash doesn't. So the question is, will that be changing? And then will you be able to get help on the same day or the day that you need it?
Yeah, well, it might even be a good question for Subsplash support to even jump in and kind of speak to that. But I will say, just from a user-friendly part, absolutely, we're doing our best to get those questions answered as soon as possible and get people diving in and answer. But also, I would say from the product side, we are actually, one of the things we're doing with Fluoro as we do these integrations is not just making the data integrated. Fluoro is actually a really powerful system, and it can be kind of overwhelming sometimes when you're first getting onboarded to it and you're first getting adapted to all the things. And so we are going to be doing a lot of things to try to figure out like how to make the system overall more intuitive, more simplified, so they're actually not having to contact support to figure things out. And so we are putting a lot of effort into the user experience, tying these all together and trying to make it as simple as and intuitive as possible as we're going through there. But I will say I know the support team, and I've worked with them on a lot of stuff, and I have a lot of trust and faith in that group. They do an awesome job, and they are constantly going the extra mile to help people get set up and answering questions before they're even asked. And so I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to it, but hopefully that helped answer that question.
Yeah, I know we've got weekend support too. So folks are there to help out on the weekend, on a Sunday. And there's other options besides that phone call, right? There's you can send in tickets that usually get a prompt reply. And I believe there's live chat as well. And so I would just encourage folks to explore those opportunities if it looks like you're not able to get that phone call in immediately.
Yeah, love that. Thanks so much, both Stevens. And thanks so much, Francois. And like I said, I think simplicity is our goal, and a lot of church managements are not simple. And so what we want to do is give you guys the robust tools that you need, but also simplify it to where it's easy to do the things that you need to do. So absolutely love that. John asked, can we provide a target date for integrations between Subsplash and Fluoro with some specific capability? I would say, and I guess it wouldn't be integration, but maybe could you guys provide a little more clarity on the dates or what we're hoping to do for that single source of truth or unification of the data there?
Yeah, I can even speak to that a little bit. Definitely the areas that we're prioritizing first for having like that single source of truth is really some of the areas where there's a lot of overlap between the Subsplash platform and the Fluoro platform. The biggest and most important of those being people and profiles, so that your people are the same on both systems, whether that's someone that's a donor, whether that's someone that's registered for an event, or someone that is using child check-in and Fluoro, that it's the same group across the board. And even if you're edited in one place or another, that data is all coming from the same source. So the main ones that we're targeting right off the back are people, groups, and events. Try to tackle one where the overlap, but one where would be the biggest pain points if these things weren't integrated. And we do have a team that's actively working on that. So I would say you can expect to see some of these integrations probably in the early Q2 timeframe, if not sooner. And that's probably about as good as I could go for a date. Anybody that knows the development world knows, like, it's kind of give or take here and there. But we've got a really great team working on it and making really good progress on it. So excited to get that out.
Absolutely. Some incredible people like Stephen with a PH. I know you're leading some of those teams there. But yeah, absolutely some really incredible teams working as hard as they can. And of course, it's technology. So, be patient with us. We do absolutely try our best to get this out as soon as possible. Hazel asked, is there a way to have the calendar and display similar to Google Calendar on the website as to have an overall view of the months of events? I would say that would be definitely on Subsplash. Should be able to have those different event visibility, things like that on the website and also in the app, which, as we know, integrate together. So let's see, anonymous attendee, love that name, great name, anonymous. Just kidding. How can we compete with PCO services for worship and music stand, etc.? It will take a mountain move to get our worship team switch over. All I have to say to that, faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. So get an amen, right? Absolutely. I think it's a great question. I would say one of the things is that's why we have the song select integration, right? Being able to integrate those things together, as well as you can actually use Music Stand without having to plan services through Planning Center. So there's definitely some options there. Would absolutely encourage you guys to connect with platform support, and they can even provide specifics for you guys as well.
Can I add a little bit to that, Chris?
Yeah,
I just want to say, like, we have a lot of respect for Planning Center, and I think like they've done a lot of things well. One thing about Fluoro is that it really is very powerful. Like, it really can do all the things, and it can do so many things that, as Stephen alluded to earlier, we've actually been like, okay, how do we not overwhelm folks? What are we going to show them that is most important? And then how are we going to improve this so it's, to improve the ease of use? And so I don't think there's, anything going on over in Planning Center, at least not that I'm aware of, that is dramatically different or more powerful than what we are capable of doing in Fluoro. It's just an issue of iterating on it, tying it into the rest of the platform, and improving the UI and the user experience in general. I don't want to overstate anything. Planning Center is awesome, but I would just want to give a plug for Fluoro and say, like, it's powerful.
Yeah, love that.
Even in fact, to that point, that's one of those ones where, hey, if you're curious about it, we kind of always love for people to go in and try it out. Try it out. Let us know. We are, especially on the product team, always very, very interested in feedback, listening to what is, we're always trying to get direct feedback from customers. What is most important to you? What are the main problems we're trying to solve? And like I said, we really are in a world where we're not trying to do all the things. What we're trying to do is integrate all the things better than anybody else. And so it's really kind of a question of, because we look at those questions kind of often, well, like, how does feature A compare to feature B on this competitor, and kind of all throughout of it. And I'm constantly trying to drive back to one, we want to do the best job we can, absolutely, with all of those. But where we think we really can differentiate is just like having all of them and all of them integrated together. And that's where a lot of kind of the power ends up coming from, is like how we can tightly integrate them together.
Love that. Thanks so much for sharing that, Stephen. And absolutely right. We want to make sure that things are done with excellence and done really, really, really well. So love that. Okay, next question. Can you group volunteers into weekly teams, week 1 welcome team, week 2 welcome team, and schedule them from that way rather than scheduling people individually? Yes. And I also believe in, and correct me if I'm wrong, people can even set their preferences as well. If they, want to be scheduled on the first week, or even block out dates that maybe they don't want to be scheduled for as well. So a lot of different ways that you can do that, as well as being able to tag groups and different things like that too. Thanks, Ben, for the question. Cody asks, is there a pro presenter import? At this time, there's not. And correct me if I'm wrong, I know it's something that's been explored in the past and could be explored in the future, but we always want to know that feedback, because that's how we continue to grow and build things and iterate, if that's something that would be useful and valuable to you guys. Next question, Michael, how do people get notifications? Is it through email, through church app, or through text? It looks like, I was gonna say, Matt was diligently answering that question. I love it. Currently it's through email, and Matt, I know you mentioned in another question that was answered, we're also exploring ways, again, as Stephen Testone mentioned, of how to tightly integrate the Subsplash Church app and even the behind the scenes volunteer management in Fluoro, as we continue to build and iterate and grow things here in the future.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too that the text message capability is there. And just a little peek behind the curtain. Just certain things are not active at the moment, but we're working on it. And then when it comes to Subsplash messaging, you can blast out a message to your different groups via Subsplash messaging, right? And so you can send that to every group or just certain groups, etc. And that's messaging within the app or on the web. So that's yet another way to do it, and that is like connected to the actual to your actual app.
Yeah, love that. Thanks so much, Stephen. I'm sure people love when they get a little bit of the behind the curtain overview of things. So super helpful to have that insight. Andrew asks, are parents able to pre-check in their child when they arrive at church? At this time, no. And actually a big reason, I know, Matt, you might even be able to clarify, is security, right? We want to make sure that when the child is actually checked in and passed over to the church, that at that time, they know that they have responsibility, right, over the kids. So as a security thing at this time, no. I'm sure we could always, think through and explore those ways to make that, but we absolutely, security is #1 priority with check-in, as I mentioned earlier. Subsplash event, next question from Stuart. Be able to put a Subsplash event on multiple calendars. If you want a kids event on both the kids calendar and the church-wide calendar, you have to make 2 events. That's something, again, that as we're integrating, the event side, or not integrated, I should say, pulling from that single source of truth, that you won't have to create, 2 events, 1 event in Fluoro and 1 in Subsplash. Those will then be unified. I believe we have time maybe for 2 more. So let's go ahead and run through 2 more. Again, Mr. Anonymous. Mr. Anonymous is asking a lot of questions. When will the volunteer/service planning feature roll out to everyone? I may have available now. absolutely available now. So I'd say if you're part of the Subsplash platform and you're a partner with us, as we'll talk through, definitely book a call with your CSM. So that is absolutely available today, right now. Answer live. Let's see. Ryan, last question. I know event registration was announced, but it feels missing fields that could tie into Fluoro. What about forms? Is there a plan to add the feature for forms to gather information, et cetera? And will that tie into that eventually? Either of the Stevens, you guys want to answer this one? I know you guys have a little bit of insight onto some of that stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, I can say for one, I mean, there is a very powerful form builder built into Fluoro that people can use.
Yeah, it's incredible.
The system. But forms absolutely is a topic that we holistically are diving in more and have things in the works and things that we're moving towards, because forms really are a pretty critical part of data gathering and getting that information into this system of record. So absolutely, forms is high on our radar, and it is something that, again, you can get through Fluoro, but we're already looking at what is it going to look like to bring this into the rest of the platform and make it more holistically available, meaning like that the forms that are in Snap Pages, for instance, and on your website and in your app, and all of these are using the same forms that are tying in with these profiles and kind of generating that information and updating that information as people continue to fill out those forms.
Yeah, love that. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. I know there's a lot of unanswered questions that I'm sure you guys have. So this is where I would say, first of all, thank you to all you guys for coming and joining. It was just such a joy to be able to get to share some of these really cool things that Subsplash has now and is even iterating towards and building in the future. For specific questions, if you're a Subsplash client, I would say book a call with your client success manager as soon as you can. Especially as those questions are still fresh on your mind. And so you can go ahead and do that. They'll be able to answer some of those questions and be happy to, as well as our support team. I know, Matt, again, thanks so much again, Matt, for joining and being able to do this and help answer. You answered so many questions that we were not able to get to. So very thankful for you. And again, if you're new to Subsplash, if you're just exploring, wanting to learn a little bit more, go ahead and visit subsplash.com/Easter 22. Again, we have that sale going on. Super excited for that. And feel free, request me. Would love to be able to demo you guys further on this. And you guys have been such a joy and such a pleasure. So thank you guys so much for joining. God bless.